How you doing, folks? Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Armored Warfare with Scout. Today we're going to be looking at the Tier 3 armored fighting vehicles in the game, of which there are currently two, the BMP1 and the AMX 10P. We're going to start out looking at the BMP1. I'll go over some of its strengths and weaknesses and give you an idea of what this vehicle plays like. In terms of weaknesses, one of the first ones I want to point out is what you saw me highlighting at the very beginning of this video when I moused over the ammunition. This thing has a 73mm low velocity gun and only fires two types of ammunition: high explosive anti-tank and high explosive. It does not have any kind of armor piercing or sabot ammunition, which means that you have to put up with those hokey heat mechanics when you're trying to penetrate a main battle tank. The penetration is good, but heat rounds, as we all know, do not like any kind of angled surface. They do not perform at all against spaced armor, and so you can, even though you have 160mm of penetration, you'll find that you'll struggle to penetrate the side of a main battle tank, even a Tier 2 main battle tank that were introduced in Iteration 4 of the early access tests, and that can be somewhat frustrating. The other limitation of this vehicle, and you're going to see it here as we pull up, it's only got 2 degrees of gun depression. 2. That means that you're going to struggle to engage targets that are straight in front of you, let alone if you're trying to shoot down. And you have to do things like you saw me do here: pull way forward and then actually angle the entire vehicle down in order to get a shot, which means you're horribly exposed. You can compensate for some of these though. You see me here, I'm compensating for the fact that I don't have any kind of armor piercing ammunition. I'm shooting HE at the front of these main battle tanks and I'm trying to track them. You're going to see me pull off the shot here on one of these tanks here directly. I think it's this T62 here. Even though we only get about 50 points of damage on a hit, we do get module damage. You see it right there. You see the red indicator pop up. That was for a track. We've broken his track, and now the T62 is stuck on that high ground and subsequently gets killed by the rest of my team. Waiting on the reload cycle here. Bam, do it again. Knock the track off of this patent, designate him for the rest of my team, and then continue to sling high explosive rounds at him and just let my team chew him apart. So it is kind of obnoxious, but you can work around it if you play intelligently. The catch to that is, though, you have to have support. If you're on your own versus a main battle tank, you're just not going to do that well in the BMP1. But you can do well against pretty much any other armored fighting vehicle. Note this Scorpion out here. I've loaded heat. First round sails right over him. Very lucky. But yeah, he's getting pretty brave, and he pays for it with his vehicle. You will reliably penetrate other armored fighting vehicles with your heat ammunition, so you don't have to worry about that too much. I would encourage you to pay attention to the team lists at the start of the game. If you know there are a lot of main battle tanks out there, know that you're going to have to play conservatively. You're going to have to spot, and you're going to have to use HE and marking in order to contribute. If there's lots of armored fighting vehicles, you can be a little bit more aggressive. You can load heat, and you can do things like this to opposing BMPs. That guy's not going to move away fast enough, and we're able to secure our second kill. Strengths of the BMP1, you saw it when I was moving to this position. It's actually a reasonably fast vehicle. It will move on out. It also has excellent view range, better in fact than any of his competitors. The problem is the view range is a two-edged sword. As you can see here, I can see these vehicles that are very far away, but hitting them is a problem because I only have heat and high explosive ammunition. The flight characteristics of both of those rounds involve lower velocity than an armor piercing or sabot round, and so it becomes very difficult to hit the targets that you can spot. So really you're more of a dedicated scout, I think, in this vehicle. A little bit of lag there. Don't let that concern you too much. It was a significant problem in Iteration 3 of the early access test. Since in Iteration 4 this lag's been resolved, I haven't had many of these problems at all, if any. Interesting fact of the BMP3, it has excellent gun elevation. Watch how far I can elevate the gun when I hang this thing off the cliff. Look at that. Even though the vehicle is pointed straight down, I have the elevation to engage all the way out there to the city. Questionable how much use that's ever going to be, but you can do it. And plus I was just kind of screwing around out here anyway, so it would be neat to show you guys that. Now what we're going to try to do is move into the city and finish off these patents. And again here, note the speed of the vehicle. It's moving up at about 45 kilometers an hour, even cross country. You have really good speed, you have really good view range, and I think this just goes to reinforce what I was stating earlier. This is really a scout vehicle. The reconnaissance branch of vehicles doesn't open until tier 4 with the swing fire. Until you get there, if scouting is your thing, I think the BMP1 is really a good choice of vehicle for you. That's what it's good at. Now you'll note here that I'm switching back and forth between ammunition types. I'm arguing with myself, trying to figure out what I want to try and engage main battle tanks with. And that's a problem that you're going to have often in this vehicle. Here's the Patton. We managed to flank him. We line up a good shot. And of course it goes into the dirt. Accuracy is a problem. Now look at this. The Patton's right in front of me. Almost a perfect flank shot. Heat round does track damage, doesn't penetrate. You'll also notice in that engagement, you saw me moving back and forth. You saw the little pile of snow beneath my tank, my vehicle. I was fighting the gun depression. Even though we were sitting on a road and the guy was 50 meters from us, I was fighting the 2 degrees of gun depression just to get a shot on that Patton. And that's really why I wanted to show you this particular clip. The gameplay, you may argue, is not the greatest, but I think it does a really good job of demonstrating the strengths and weaknesses of the BMP. Excellent scout vehicle, got some problems with its guns, and the gun depression is really annoying. Unfortunately, our team capped out right there, so we didn't get to hunt down the last of those tanks. We'll take a quick look at the results screen, and then I got one more clip of the BMP1 to show you. So here we are, checking out the results screen. 400 points, 1,400 I should say, points of damage. Really not that bad. Felt like I had a pretty decent role in that game. You see here that the spotting mechanics are still a little bit wonky. You're not quite getting credited for all the assistance, tracking damage, and spotting damage that you do. They're working on resolving that. It's a line of sight issue. Apparently if you're spotting and you duck down because you don't want to get shot by what you spotted and you break line of sight, you're not getting credit for it, even though you're the one that spotted it. Since you don't have line of sight, it's not crediting you with spotting damage. But still in all, even despite all that, we still had a pretty good role in this game and got rewarded appropriately. So yeah, I think the BMP1 is competitive. Let's take a look at another game, and I'll show you guys why. So here we are in a pretty good game on Roughneck, one of the newer maps in Armored Warfare. And this is one of those maps where the BMP can have a good role in the game because of its outstanding view range, especially if it's a tier 3 game where you can dominate with your view range. In tier 4 it's a little more challenging. You've got some things that can compete with your view range, specifically swing fires. But if there's no swing fire around, it's really up to you to be the scout for your team. Now, an interesting thing I want to talk about right quick while we're on this particular map, the east side of this map. I don't know what it is with teams that spawn in the south, but they will incessantly try to drive straight north out of the southeastern spawn and then stop in the middle of the map on the eastern side at like Delta 9 and snipe up at people who are in the position that you're going to see me take. Don't do that. You're in the wide open. Why would you ever stop? It is the most foolish thing I've ever seen. I have seen entire teams stop out there at D9, and then when you get spotted, you have nowhere to go and you get obliterated. For the love of God, it is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. If you're going to go north from the southeastern spawn, race either to the refinery that you can see me looking through right now, or all the way up on the east side of the road. Use the road to cover you and get all the way into the northeast corner of the map, all the way up at Alpha 9. And force the people who are sitting where I'm sitting now to fight in 2 directions. The refinery will offer you cover, so will the road. But stopping out there at like Delta 9 in the cover to Delta 9 in the middle of the open with no cover and no concealment to shoot at people on this hill is dumb. It's why you get killed every time you get spotted. So please, for the love of God, don't do it. Okay, rant over. I'm going to get down off my soapbox. You'll note that the BMP1, even though it's only a tier 3 vehicle, can spot all the way past the refinery from here. And that's why this vehicle can make such a big contribution on this map. See, here's this guy doing exactly what I'm talking about. If I had had a heat round loaded, he'd have been dead already. Foolish. That's what you get. But, yeah, it's really up to you to spot for your team on this map. You can see how far I can spot. And that's kind of your role, and that's where the BMP1 can excel, especially in tier 3 games with your superior view range. Here again, you see me using the HE round trick. This guy's playing smart. He's using that road like I talked about, but then for whatever reason he stops doing it and he comes up to take a shot, and look how heavily he gets punished for it. He gets away with what, 19-20 hit points total. he just gets pummeled, and I've designated him for artillery, and you can guess probably what's about to happen. There's a swing fire miss. I'm trying to loop an HE round over the road, and any second now there's the artillery round, and he's done. That is why I tell you, if you're going to spawn in the south and come north, don't completely ignore this avenue of approach, but my god, man, do it intelligently. Do not stop in the open. So now that we've done our spotting for our team up there on the ridge, we're going to move forward and counterattack down this avenue. There's always some stragglers out here, some people who are lagging behind, trying to snipe, don't know how to play the game properly. We're going to go out here, push south, and try to pick them up. Note again the speed of the BMP1, how fast I was able to make it down here. Also, what we talked about in the other video, low profile nature of the vehicle makes it really easy to hide behind the raised roads and whatnot on this and other maps. Now you see the AMX 10P from the enemy team crossing in front of me from right to left. We switched to heat ammunition because we can easily penetrate him with heat and do a lot of damage. You do have good damage if you can get your shots to penetrate. And we designate him while we're waiting on the reload cycle. Now that we've got our heat loaded, we're going to go ahead and push up. Additionally, we've got some support coming in terms of that AMX 10P right there crossing the railroad tracks in front of us. We're going to wait for him to get on up there, and then we're going to move up in conjunction with him. Also stop him periodically to kick in my bonus view range and make sure there's not a tank out here hiding for us. Plant the first shot into the AMX 10P. Get a pretty low damage roll actually, and a little bit lowish on that one too, so he gets away with 10 hit points, which is unfortunate because he's able to kill the AMX 10P that came over here with me. But it's pretty much done for him. We're going to move up, knock down this wall if we need to, and finish off this AMX 10P. There he is. Got him spotted and secure our first kill. You'll note that we're spotted. Everybody has 6th sense again in Armored Warfare, so we're going to move up, knock down this wall, and because we're low profile, we're automatically shielded from fire on the right side. One of the advantages of the BMP1. And continue using our superior mobility. We're going to push on up here and try to spot enemy who are on the eastern side of the refinery, just off to my west. There we spot the AMX 10P. Here again though, note the 2 degrees of gun depression. Look how far up I had to come in order to comfortably get the depression to take this shot. You note the enemy is spotted to my left. I know it's the artillery, so I'm ignoring him. Got to finish off this AMX 10P because he will give me problems if I allow him to live. And again, look how far forward I have to come to get the gun down far enough to comfortably take this shot. And now that we've eliminated him, we're going to turn left and go finish this artillery. Again though, as much as we beat up the BMP for its terrible gun depression and its poor gun characteristics because of its ammunition type, look how quickly it accelerates, look how well it moves. With a properly trained crew, note that my crosshairs really don't bloom that much on the move. Able to plan a good shot into this artillery piece on the move, dive into the road to dodge his return fire, and then plant a second shot in the move right into the side of him and secure the kill. Now we're taking fire here from something that we cannot see. Another tip for you, irrespective of our little review of the BMP1, learn the reload times. Just by how fast those rounds came, you can tell that it's probably the Leopard 1. Conceivably it could be the Patton if he's fully upgraded, but unlikely. Definitely not the T-62s because they're alpha damage that would have killed me. So now we know, even though we can't see the tank, what's out here. I was going to hide here and cap, but I was really nervous because I couldn't see the Leopard and I knew he was coming, so I wanted to move up to spot him. Here again, note the gun depression. I can't get it all the way down into his hull, so I fire and I get one of those weird heat bounces. Didn't think I was spotted. By the time the marker came up, the Leopard had already stopped and he was able to plan a shot into me and kill the vehicle. So unfortunate ending for that round, but again, I think it really shows you what the BMP1 is good at, and as well as the challenges that you're going to have driving this vehicle. Unfortunately, this would turn out to be a loss. The remainder of my team did not play well. I'm not going to make you watch all the rest of it. Let's just skip ahead to the results and show you guys what this game turned out like. So here we have the results screen from that unfortunate defeat on Roughneck. Little over 2k damage, so really not bad in the BMP1 considering the matchmaker. There were some tier 4 tanks running around there. But we did alright for ourselves. Did a good amount of damage. Again, spotting is a little bit wonky, but still, even though we lost, we got a good amount of experience. Again, Armored Warfare does not penalize you nearly as much for being on a losing team as some other games. And I felt like we had a really good role in that game, and I was pretty happy with how it played and pretty happy with how the vehicle performed. So that's it for the BMP1. Good scout vehicle, but you're going to have problems with the gun. Specifically, only having heat and HE ammunition and the gun depression are going to aggravate you a lot. But good mobility and good view range. So let's take a look now at the AMX 10P and see what that vehicle is like. So here we have the AMX 10P on a game that I played in Ghost Fields. And what you see me doing now is a role that I think the AMX 10P is very suited to, and that's kind of screen and the counter reconnaissance type role. You'll notice that as normal, the team has gone north all the way up in the northeast corner, from there to push west across the north end of the map, and some of the tanks have gone into the southeast corner of the map from there to push west straight across the southern edge of the map. But in doing so, they left the middle of the map kind of open, except for me and one other vehicle down here. And this is something that the AMX 10P is really good at, is kind of this counter reconnaissance role, and there are a couple of reasons for that. One, this vehicle is fast like the BMP1, but it doesn't have quite the view range. There are two types of armored fighting vehicles really in Armored Warfare, kind of the scout and then kind of the not so much other things, really, if you will. All armored fighting vehicles can designate targets, but not all are equal in terms of view range. Some are better at capping the flag. Others got a view range bonus when they were stationary, and it was dependent on whether or not you had a troop compartment or a reconnaissance module. Now they've changed that for iteration 4 of the early access test, because it kind of created a little imbalance. There were only certain situations that you really wanted to cap, otherwise it was not very useful. So now all vehicles do get some, armored fighting vehicles I should say, do get some kind of vision range bonus when they're stationary, but some get more than others. And the the AMX 10P is one of the vehicles that doesn't have really great view range because it's in the fire support tree as opposed to some of the other trees, and that's what this vehicle is meant to do. And what you've been seeing since the vehicle started, if you've been watching, is me fulfilling that role. I'm stationary, so I get the best spotting distance that I can out of this vehicle, and I use the autocannon. This is essentially a hopped up M113. It's an armored personnel carrier with an autocannon attached to it. The improvements that you get over the M113 are a much larger magazine, probably a slightly better rate of fire, and much more accuracy. If you've been watching the engagements that I've made, like watch this coming up where we 4 rounds into this vehicle, look at that. Look at the targeting reticle. It doesn't bloom hardly at all. You can just keep your finger down and lay rounds into a target. You saw me track that I think it was a T62, maybe a T64, using just constant hits to his tracks until someone else could kill him. Those kind of things are what this vehicle is outstanding at. Chewing up armored fighting vehicles and then suppressing tanks until someone else can kill them. Because unlike the M113, you do have the choice of loading high explosive incendiary ammunition in this vehicle. So even if you're forced to engage a tank from the front, you can still do about 3 damage per round per hit with your HEI ammunition. So you can, especially with such a large magazine, hit them pop 3 each time, and they'll get the message generally and then back up. So you can actually effectively suppress even main battle tanks in this vehicle, which you couldn't in an M113. Once they realized you only had AP and were only bouncing, they just come straight at you. Now, we've let the game develop. You notice it's kind of a stalemate down here in the south, so what I'm going to do is load armor piercing, and I'm going to go down here and try to break this stalemate over in the south by coming around from the north side of the hill, i.e. to my right, as opposed to the battle, which is mostly to the left. Now, there's a Sheridan up here on the other side of this hangar. Very dangerous tank to engage with an armored fighting vehicle because he can fire accurately on the move, and he has a 152mm gun, which does massive damage, and it will penetrate you in a light vehicle like this. Very dangerous vehicle, but I think I've got the jump on him. So I'm going to get up here and try to take him out of the equation. And I want you to see how this autocannon performs with armor-piercing ammunition against a light tank. Look at the burst, and you can see that we're doing massive amount of damage in a very short time with the penetrations, but not all our shots are penetrating. even though he's only got like 14 millimeters of armor, look at the ricochets I'm getting as I try to back off and get into a better position, because I'm hitting him on the upper glacis and not down in the lower part where it's flat down towards the lower glacis. And that's kind of the problem really that you're going to run into with this gun, is its penetration is, I don't want to say lackluster. It will chew up armor fighting vehicles, and by and large it will penetrate, you saw even the Sheridan, but it's not good enough to be completely confident in your ability to penetrate a Sheridan, as lightly armored as that is. Now watch how we chew up this Lav 150, you see. It just doesn't stand a chance. But once you start engaging light tanks, you're going to have to be a little more careful, because if they're angled at all, or if you hit an angled surface, you're going to start getting bounces. And then with main battle tanks, obviously the effectiveness of the autocannon goes down further still. To be honest, I find it unreliable even in a perfect side-on engagement, much like the BMP1's gun. You don't have enough to get through the side reliably, and you're really going to have to look for the rear to feel comfortable that every shot's going to go in and do damage if you're forced to engage a main battle tank. Fortunately, as you can see, now that we did not have to, once we were freed of our obligation to cover the middle of the map and start moving around, you see it does move very well. You do have much better gun depression in this vehicle than you do in the BMP1. But what you lose is that low profile nature. This vehicle does sit up much taller than the BMP1, so it's much easier to hit. I don't feel that the AMX 10P is quite as fast, and obviously you lose a great deal of that view range, and you also lose alpha damage. It's worth noting, yes, you can do a lot of damage in a very short time, but you do need a target exposed over a period of time in order to do damage with an autocannon, whereas a BMP1, if it does hit and penetrate with that one heat round, it's going to do a significant amount of damage in just one shot. So let's take a look at the results screen here, see how we did on this battle on Ghost Fields in the AMX 10P. As you can tell here, not too shabby. Again, nothing groundbreaking, but certainly nothing to be ashamed of or to hang your head about. And again, this is another case where I really wanted to use this clip to demonstrate to you some of the problems as well as some of the opportunities that you're going to have with this particular vehicle. And I think that video pretty much covered all of them. So I showed you 2 rounds in the BMP1. I want to show you one more in the AMX 10P here, just for the sake of fairness, and additionally show you something with a little bit more exciting gameplay in it. So let's get to it. Alright, so here we are on River Point this time in our AMX 10P, and we'll show you a little bit more mobile gameplay. You know, another thing about this vehicle is it's a great thing that it does have high explosive incendiary ammunition, because it gives you some options, but it does present its own unique set of problems too. In that first clip you saw me switching back and forth between ammo types constantly, because I was trying to get the ammunition that was best suited to the target I thought was going to come up. Really? That's what you should not do in the AMX 10B, because you saw I got caught numerous times where I could have put 4, 5, 6 rounds into a target, but I was stuck reloading because I had switched ammunition types just based on a gut instinct. If you don't know what's going to come up, just load the high explosive incendiary. It will work regardless of what you're shooting at. It will do fine against armored fighting vehicles, and you can still damage tanks. I do not recommend you do it all the time. Some people say just load HEI and go with that entirely. I don't think that's the way to go. Especially if you're fighting armored fighting vehicles, sometimes it's better to have armor piercing. And you'll notice in this particular match there are a lot of soft vehicles out and about, so that's why I've loaded armor piercing and kept it loaded. And that's a game you're going to have to play through in your head what you're going to load. Just try not to do it in the middle of the battle like I was doing in the last clip, because you'll miss opportunities as you saw me do. In this case I've gone out west. I don't like the east side of River Point in armored fighting vehicles. I think that's a tank playground. It's very linear. There's very little room to maneuver. It's too easy to get penned down, and a tank is just going to eat your face if you're in an armored vehicle out there. So we've come out here out west, and as you can see, we've got a little more room laterally east to west to play in this corridor. If all else fails, we can backtrack and go back out and come into the center of the map, which is also a viable option, I think, when you're in an armored fighting vehicle. I don't like the east. I don't recommend you go that way in your armored fighting vehicles. Tricky part here is getting to a position where you can shoot and not also be exposed and shot at yourself. You see here I moved up in order to get a better position because I didn't like back there where I was at. too many targets obscured by hills and changes in elevation. Yet when I come up here, when I get good shots, I immediately get spotted. So that's kind of the tricky part of this map, is finding your ideal spot from which you can engage. Here we're engaging a BMP1 with armor piercing. You'll notice we did get a ricochet. We hit his side at a really funky angle, but because of the accuracy and the rate of fire on the gun, we're still able to secure the kill. Just keep pumping rounds at them, they will go in. Going back to what I was talking about earlier, positions on this map, it can be difficult to find kind of a fire support position on this map. As you can see, these are kind of bowling alley things, and there's not a lot of concealment, let alone cover anywhere in them. All the way back behind me, there's a hill you can go up on and take that hill and fire down these two bowling alley type lanes. The only drawback to that is that you're kind of conceding the whole northern half of this avenue of approach if you go back up there, and you're relying on your team to spot. So I would be careful taking that. Now watch this engagement here. Look at how we're able to just lay on the trigger and accurately put rounds into this Lav 150 and hit him every time. Something you could not have done in the M113 or any of the autocannon equipped vehicles prior to the AMX 10P, and that to me is what kind of makes this vehicle special. I think that guy was either he didn't make it into the match, or he's staring down his gun sight at someone else. Here again, another demonstrate, just lay on that trigger and we're able to eat that swing fire alive. Now watch the performance here of the armor piercing rounds against this Leopard. You see, when we get flat shots like that on the lightly armored tanks, namely the Leopard 1 and the OF-40, you are able to reliably penetrate their sides. So those are the main battle tanks that you want to look for in this vehicle, because you will be able to penetrate the sides, and in some cases probably not the OF-40 but the Leopard 1. If you aim at the flat portion of his lower glacis, you can even penetrate him reliably frontally with armor piercing, and because again, rapid rate of fire and very accurate, you can do a lot of damage to those particular main battle tanks in a very short amount of time, as long as you've set your engagement up properly. Now here I've started to get the feeling that this position is pretty much played out. The battle's run away from me, so I'm going to have to move east in order to get back into the fight. Did not expect that, by the way. That was not me being silly. I didn't think that jump was that far, but it turned out to be a lot further down than I thought it was. Did a significant amount of damage to my vehicle there. But you'll note on the southeastern side of the town there's a Leopard who's trying to engage a T-62 or a T-64. I think it's a T-64. Who's coming out of the eastern bowling alley, and that's not a very good engagement for him, just because of his vehicle he's in. He's got no armor, whereas that T-series tank can get hauled down. He'll abuse that Leopard. So I'm loading high explosive incendiary rounds, anticipating the T-62 to be hull down, or T-64, I'm sorry, and then I come up here and stop popping him in his turret, and then I designate him. I know I'm not doing a lot of damage here, but that's not the point. The point is just to make him back down and get away, so allow that Leopard to get to a more favorable position to engage from. And you can see that it works very well. That 3 points of damage starts to add up quickly, and most intelligent players are not just going to sit there and take 3 points of damage over and over and over for no reason. They'll back down. Now, I'm not sure what this Patton was thinking. I think he wanted to come up and engage the Leopard, but I've seen him. I've seen a chance to get behind him, and this right here is what I wanted you guys to really take away from this. Even with HEI loaded, watch what I'm able to do to the back of this Patton. Unloading on him at point blank range, and just look at that damage stack up, and there is no way. Did you see how slowly his turret traversing? No way he was ever going to get that gun around before I killed him. Just unfortunate that the artillery round hit him and killed him instead, but still, that is what you want to try to set up in your armored fighting vehicles if you're going to be aggressive, especially in the AMX 10P, and you're fighting a main battle tank. That is the way to do it. You got to get behind them. Similarly, if you're in a main battle tank, do not let an AMX 10P or really anything with an autocan get behind you, because that is going to be your fate. So let's take a look at the results screen here. As you can see, it's a pretty productive game in the AMX 10P, able to make a good amount of experience and deal a significant amount of damage in that game. And of these two vehicles, I think I prefer the AMX 10P a little bit more. It's not that it's a better vehicle per se, it's just I feel that the BMP1, because you're really a scout vehicle in that, I feel like you're relying on your team to actually shoot the things you're spotting for. Whereas the AMX 10P, I can do a little bit more on my own, but that's just my personal taste. I think you guys will enjoy both of these vehicles. So that's it for our look at the Tier 3 armored fighting vehicles here in Armored Warfare. I hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Stick with us, we got a lot more coming, Tier 4 and Tier 5 action coming up. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.